I still remember the smell of coffee that last morning. Sunlight poured through the kitchen window, and everything felt so normal, so safe. 7 years of marriage, and I thought we had something people envied. Megan was sleeping upstairs, and I had no idea that a single text message would change everything. I did not scream. I did not confront her. I simply made a plan and disappeared. 1 year later, she found me, and the words she said made my blood run cold. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments. If you have ever wondered whether you would confront a cheater or simply walk away, hit that like button and subscribe to follow my journey. Now let me take you back to the beginning. Megan and I met at a mutual friend's party when we were both 27 years old. She walked into the room wearing a red dress, laughing at something someone said, and I could not take my eyes off her. She had this energy about her, this way of making everyone around her feel special. When she turned and caught me staring, she just smiled and walked right up to me. That confidence, that boldness, it drew me in immediately. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. She said yes before I even finished the question. We bought a small house in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon, with a little backyard and a kitchen that got perfect morning light. I worked as a software engineer for a tech company, putting in long hours but always making sure to be home for dinner. Megan worked in marketing for an agency downtown. She was ambitious, driven, and I admired that about her. 7 years of marriage. No kids yet because we both wanted to focus on our careers first. We talked about it sometimes, about what our future family might look like, about names we liked, about whether we would get a dog first. I thought we had time. I thought we had forever. Looking back now, I can see the signs I chose to ignore. About 6 months before that terrible Friday night, Megan started changing. Small things at first. She began traveling more for work, claiming she had client meetings in Seattle and San Francisco, in places that required overnight stays. She started coming home later, always with an excuse about traffic or a dinner that ran long. She joined a gym and went religiously, sometimes twice a day. Her wardrobe changed. New dresses, new perfume, new lingerie that I never saw her wear for me. Her phone became an extension of her hand, always face down on the table, always locked with a new password every few weeks. I noticed. Of course I noticed. But when you love someone, you make excuses for them. I told myself she was stressed about a promotion. I told myself she was going through a phase. I told myself that after 7 years, couples just needed their own space sometimes. I trusted her completely because she had never given me a reason not to. That Friday night started like any other. I came home from work around 6:30, and Megan was already there, which was unusual. She said she was tired and wanted an early night. We ordered takeout, watched a show on the couch, and everything felt normal. Around 9, she said she was going to take a shower. She left her phone on the kitchen counter. I was cleaning up the takeout containers when it buzzed. Then again. Then a third time. I was not planning to look. I had never been the type to check her phone. But something made me glance at the screen, and I saw a name I recognized. Derek. The preview of the message read, "I miss you already." Tonight was perfect. My hand started shaking. I picked up the phone and I did something I had never done in 7 years of marriage. I opened it. There were hundreds of messages, 5 months of conversations, good morning texts and good night texts, plans to meet at hotels during her business trips, photos I wish I could unsee, declarations of love, promises of a future together, jokes about how oblivious I was. Derek. I knew him. He was the creative director at her agency. Megan had introduced us at a company party about 8 months ago. He shook my hand, looked me in the eye, and told me how lucky I was to have such an amazing wife. I remembered thanking him. I remembered feeling proud. I heard the shower turn off. In a panic, I put the phone back exactly where she left it and pretended to be watching television. When Megan came out in her robe, her hair wrapped in a towel, she kissed me on the cheek and said she was going to bed early. I told her I would be up soon. That night, I lay next to her in our bed, staring at the ceiling while she slept peacefully beside me. How could she sleep like that? How could she lie next to me every night knowing what she was doing? I watched her breathe this woman I had loved for nearly a decade, and I realized I did not know her at all. I did not cry. I did not wake her up and demand answers. I just felt numb, like someone had reached inside my chest and removed something essential. I lay there for hours running through my options. I could confront her in the morning. I could throw things scream demand to know why. But I knew Megan. I knew exactly what would happen. She would cry. She would apologize. She would find a way to make it my fault somehow. She would beg for another chance, and part of me might be weak enough to give it to her. She would manipulate me into staying, and I would spend the rest of my life wondering if she was still lying to me. No, I was not going to give her that power. By the time the sun came up, I had made my decision. I was going to disappear. The next 2 weeks were the hardest of my life. Every morning I woke up next to a stranger. Every evening I came home and pretended everything was fine. I cooked dinners. I watched movies with her on the couch. I listened to her talk about her day, knowing she was editing out the parts that mattered. I kissed her goodnight and told her I loved her, and every word felt like swallowing glass. But I needed time. I needed to plan. First, I called my older brother Russell. He lived alone in Boulder, Colorado, in a cabin he had bought after his divorce 3 years ago. Russell and I were not especially close, but he was family, and I knew he would understand. When I told him what happened, he did not ask questions. He just said, "Come whenever you are ready. I have a spare room." Next, I opened a new bank account at a different bank. Over the course of 2 weeks, I quietly transferred my personal savings, the money I had before we got married, plus half of what we had saved together. I knew the law. I was entitled to half. I did not take a penny more. I updated my resume and started applying for remote positions in Colorado. Within a week, I had 2 interviews lined up. Within 2 weeks, I had a tentative job offer from a startup in Denver. They were willing to let me work remotely for the first few months while I got settled. Every night while Megan was asleep, I quietly gathered my most important belongings. Old photographs, my grandfather's watch, documents I could not replace. I packed them into boxes and stored them in the trunk of my car, a little at a time, so she would not notice. I wrote a letter. It was short, just a few lines. I did not explain. I did not accuse. I simply wrote, "I know about Derek. Do not try to contact me. My lawyer will be in touch about the divorce." I left it in the drawer of my desk at home, where she would eventually find it. On the 14th day, a Monday morning, Megan got ready for work, like always. She put on makeup, styled her hair, chose an outfit I had never seen before. At the door, she kissed me and said those 3 words, "I love you." I could not say it back. I just nodded and tried to smile. She did not seem to notice. She never really looked at me anymore. The moment her car turned the corner, I moved quickly. I grabbed the last of my things, did one final sweep of the house, and locked the door behind me. I did not look back. I did not let myself feel anything. I got in my car and started driving east. 16 hours. That is how long it takes to drive from Portland to Boulder. I stopped only for gas and coffee, pushing through the night, putting mile after mile between myself and the life I was leaving behind. The mountains appeared on the horizon around dawn, and something in my chest loosened just a little. Russell was waiting on his porch when I pulled into his driveway. He did not say much. He just hugged me, helped me carry my bags inside, and pointed me toward the spare bedroom. "Stay as long as you need," he said. That was all. The first few weeks were hell. I barely left my room. I could not eat. I could not sleep more than a few hours at a time. I would wake up at 3 in the morning with my heart pounding, reaching for someone who was not there. The pain was physical, a weight on my chest that made it hard to breathe. Russell checked on me, but gave me space. He would leave plates of food outside my door and knock twice to let me know it was there. Sometimes I ate, sometimes I did not. Through my lawyer, I learned that Megan was shocked by my disappearance. She claimed she had no idea what had happened, that she was worried sick, that she just wanted to talk. She sent messages through the attorney begging for an explanation. I told him to ignore them. I only wanted one thing, a quick divorce. It took 3 months. 3 months of silence, of legal documents, of her eventually accepting that I was not coming back. She signed the papers without asking for anything. Maybe she thought I would change my mind. Maybe she was too proud to fight. Either way, it was over. After 4 months at Russell's cabin, I was ready to try again. I accepted the job in Denver and found a small apartment in a quiet neighborhood. It was nothing fancy, just a 1-bedroom on the 3rd floor of an old building, but it was mine. Starting over was harder than I expected. Cooking for one felt pathetic. Coming home to an empty apartment felt lonely. I would catch myself reaching for my phone to text Megan to tell her about something funny that happened at work before remembering that she was not my person anymore. But slowly things got better. I started walking every morning just around the neighborhood, at first, then farther exploring the city. I discovered a small coffee shop a few blocks from my apartment, run by a man named Walter. He was in his 60s, a widower who had owned the place for 30 years. He never asked about my past. We just talked about the weather, about books, about the Broncos. It was exactly what I needed. My upstairs neighbor, Nina, was a 40-year-old teacher who lived alone with 2 cats. She noticed I was new and struggling, and she started inviting me over for dinner with her family when they visited. Her mother made the best lasagna I had ever tasted, and her sister told jokes that actually made me laugh. Slowly, I started to feel human again. The wound was still there, but it was not bleeding anymore. I started to believe that maybe eventually I would be okay. 1 year, 365 days since I drove away from Portland and never looked back. I marked the anniversary without even realizing it, only noticing the date when I wrote a check for my rent. So much had changed. I had been promoted at work twice, and now led a small team of developers. I had friends, real friends, not just people I knew through Megan. I had taken up guitar, something I had always wanted to learn, but she had dismissed as a waste of time. I was not great at it, but I enjoyed it, and that was enough. My apartment finally felt like home. I had plants on the windowsill, books stacked on the coffee table, artwork I had chosen myself on the walls. For the first time in a long time, I felt like myself. Not Megan's husband, just Harrison. I still thought about her sometimes, not with the sharp pain of before, but with a dull ache, like an old injury that flares up when the weather changes. I wondered if she was happy. I wondered if she ever regretted what she did. Mostly, I just wondered how I had missed so much for so long. That Saturday night, I was making dinner, just pasta and a simple salad, when the doorbell rang. I was not expecting anyone. Nina usually texted before coming down, and Russell always called ahead when he was in town. I wiped my hands on a towel and opened the door. And there she was, Megan, standing in my hallway 1,000 miles from where I had left her, looking like she had not slept in days. She was thinner than I remembered, her cheeks hollow, her eyes red and puffy. She was wearing jeans and a sweater I did not recognize, clutching her purse like a lifeline. My first instinct was to slam the door. My second was to ask how she had found me. But I did neither. I just stood there, frozen, staring at the woman who had shattered my heart. Her voice cracked when she spoke. I never thought you would actually leave me. I do not know how long we stood there just looking at each other. It could have been seconds. It could have been minutes. Finally, I found my voice. How did you find me? She wiped her eyes. I hired a private investigator. It took him 4 months, but he tracked you down. She hesitated. Can I come in, please? I just want to talk. Against my better judgment, I stepped aside and let her in. The apartment suddenly felt smaller with her in it. She looked around, taking in the plants, the guitar in the corner, the life I had built without her. I did not offer her a seat. I did not offer her anything. I just stood by the kitchen counter, arms crossed, waiting. I know you hate me, she started, and you have every right to. What I did was unforgivable. I know that. I said nothing. Derek and I ended months ago, she continued. Right after you left. He dumped me as soon as he found out I was getting divorced. Turns out he never wanted anything real. I was just convenient. I almost laughed. Almost. The house feels so empty without you, she said, her voice breaking. Our friends stopped calling. My parents can barely look at me. I lost everything, Harrison. Everything. She took a step toward me. I have changed. I swear I have. I have been going to therapy, working on myself, trying to understand why I did what I did, and I know now that I made the worst mistake of my life. I threw away the best thing I ever had. She reached for my hand. I pulled away. Please, she whispered. Give me another chance. I will do anything. I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Just please, please do not give up on us. I let her words hang in the air for a long moment. Then I took a deep breath and spoke for the first time. Do you know what the worst part was? She looked at me, confused. It was not reading those messages. It was not seeing the photos. It was lying next to you for 2 weeks after I found out, watching you sleep peacefully, knowing you had no idea that I knew. I had to look you in the eye every single day and pretend that my world had not just ended. I had to kiss you goodnight while my chest was caving in. Her face crumpled, but I kept going. I did not confront you because I knew exactly what would happen. You would cry. You would apologize. You would find a way to twist it to make me the bad guy somehow, to guilt me into staying. And part of me, the part that still loved you, might have been stupid enough to believe you. I shook my head. But you did not make a mistake, Megan. A mistake is forgetting to pay a bill. A mistake is missing an appointment. What you did was a choice. You woke up every single day for 5 months and chose to lie to me. You looked at your phone and saw his messages and you chose to respond. You got dressed and went to meet him and you chose to betray me over and over again. She was sobbing now, but I could not stop. You are not here because you love me. You are here because your life fell apart, and I was your safety net. Derek did not want you, so now you want me back. Not because you realized what you lost, but because you realized what you cannot have. I walked to the door and opened it. I am not your backup plan, Megan. I am not the consolation prize you come back to when everything else falls apart. I deserve someone who chooses me first, not someone who settles for me when they run out of options. She stood up, trembling. Harrison, please, I love you. I always loved you. I looked at her, really looked at her for the first time since she arrived. And I felt something I did not expect. Nothing. No anger. No sadness. No longing. Just a quiet, steady calm. I hope you find what you are looking for, I said. I really do. But it is not going to be with me. Goodbye, Megan. She walked past me crying, and I closed the door behind her. For a long moment I just stood there, my hand still on the doorknob. Then I went back to the kitchen and finished making my dinner. That night I sat on my couch with my guitar in my lap, not playing, just thinking. I had imagined that moment so many times over the past year, what I would say if I ever saw her again, how I would feel. I thought it would be dramatic. I thought I would yell or cry or feel that old familiar pain come rushing back. Instead, I just felt free. The next morning, I knocked on Nina's door and told her what happened. She listened without interrupting, then smiled and said, "You did the right thing. You finally chose yourself." I went to Walter's coffee shop and sat in my usual spot by the window. He brought me my regular order without being asked, and sat down across from me for a few minutes, something he rarely did. He did not ask what was wrong. He just talked about the weather, about a book he was reading, about nothing in particular. When he got up to serve another customer, he squeezed my shoulder once and walked away. Over the next few weeks, I thought a lot about the past year. I remembered those first terrible days in Russell's spare room when I could not eat, could not sleep, could not imagine ever feeling normal again. I remembered the first time I laughed after the divorce at one of Walter's terrible jokes and how strange and wonderful it felt. I remembered the day I got promoted and had no one to call, and how Nina's family had insisted on taking me out to celebrate. I realized something important. I had spent 7 years of my marriage putting Megan's happiness before my own. I had made myself smaller to fit into the space she allowed me. I had ignored every red flag because I was afraid of losing her. Leaving was not running away. It was running toward something. Toward myself. I learned that loving someone doesn't mean staying when they treat you like you do not matter. Loyalty is not about suffering in silence, and self-respect is not selfish. It is necessary. Megan taught me that the hard way, and in a strange sense, I am grateful, because losing her helped me find myself. A year ago, I was a man who did not know his own worth. Today, I am a man who will never forget it again. I do not know what the future holds. Maybe I will fall in love again someday. Maybe I will not. But I know one thing for certain: I will never lose myself in another person the way I lost myself in her. I will never ignore my own pain to keep someone else comfortable. I will never again be so afraid of being alone that I stay in a relationship where I am not valued. Sometimes walking away is not giving up. Sometimes it is the bravest thing you can do. And sometimes the person who hurt you the most is the one who teaches you how strong you really are. If you have ever been through something similar, if you have ever had to choose between staying in a painful situation or walking away into the unknown, I want to hear your story. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have confronted her, or would you have disappeared like I did? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story touched you in any way, please hit that like button and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe to this channel so you do not miss the next story, and turn on notifications to be the first to know when new content goes live. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you for being part of this community. Remember, no matter what you are going through, you are stronger than you think. You deserve a love that doesn't make you question your worth. And sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is simply walk away. Take care of yourselves out there. I will see you in the next one.